This is the It's Time to Refresh podcast with Brad Riffresh, the podcast about life, music, traveling, shit, literal shit that is, and weird and wacky stories with Brad, and a range of guests from the planet Earth. Feel free to share the pod with your pals, your mom, your neighbor's dog, or even your shrink. It's all fun. You can follow our Facebook group called It's Time to Refresh Community, or It's Time to Refresh on Instagram. Write into the pod, ask questions, and share your stories. Enjoy the pod.
Hey kid, what time is that?
It's time to refresh.
Back once again with another episode. This is episode 49 of the podcast, if I'm correct. We've got a repeat guest on. Yeah, no, well, it is 49. I'm sure of it because 48 comes out today, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, we've got a return guest, Dave Gray. How are we doing?
I'm good.
We've got a good sort of. We got a good feedback on the last one. A lot of people were happy to see you on the pod.
Oh, that's nice. It's nice to know that people actually want to see me.
No, I think a lot of people enjoy your stories, as I do. But like, I think you've got I said, if you live closer to me, I think you'd be like a co-host because you've got a very good thing about you where it's like I think you've got a good charisma.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll take that.
no, but you know where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of people commenting on from up this way don't necessarily know who you are. We're saying, oh, he was a good guest. He had like some really funny opinions and like and what not to say. So obviously you have to come back on it. Do you know what I mean? Part two.
Fair enough. Well, I've had plenty of practice at doing this myself now. I started doing my own podcast. So because I always decided if I was going to do like something like that, I'm going to have to like put my voice on it because otherwise there's no point in doing it.
Yeah.
And at first I was a bit like, well, I can't really be funny on my own. But now it's actually, I've got used to it and thought, yeah, it's like people know what I'm like anyway, so as long as I'm just being myself, it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, you just need to crank it up a little tiny bit, don't you? So people know what you're talking about. So since you've last been on, you've been quite busy. We've talked about gigs and that when we were coming over in the car. So how's it been? How was your Christmas? And
how's the Christmas? Christmas was a bit crap, to be fair. Right. Well, actually, I had COVID for most of it. I caught COVID just before Christmas when I was meant to be going to see Ryan Walker with Amber because we were going to Glory Holes golfing.
Right.
And then it's like I did a COVID test on the day because I didn't feel right, and it was like, can't go now. Right. So Christmas ended up being a bit boring. But it was obviously my 40th a few weeks later, wasn't it? So,
yeah, I apologise I couldn't make it down. I was in Nottingham, so I know it wasn't even that far away.
Well, to be honest, it's like a few people like struggled to get there because some of the trains broke down on the day.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like some people didn't get there until really late in the they'd sent me photos of them being on the train like 4 o'clock that afternoon. Right, so some people couldn't come till quite late. But anyway, I was out for most of it. The only reason I had a 40th was because it's like, you've got to have a 40th. It's your last big birthday when people are still wanting to go out, really, isn't it? And obviously there was like loads of events on before that in the run up to it. So what I did was I just went out to all them and I basically everybody said, look, if you can't make it to any of these events, you don't want to see me come to a birthday party. Then you can buy me a drink then.
Well, what was I going to say? That it looked all right. Like I seen you got a bit worse for wear when you put repeat statuses online.
Oh God! Right, right. I don't even know how that happened, but all I remember is I was typing that status out and I started my account, and it's like I've fallen asleep as I've pressed post. Right, so it's like I think it's like I woke up with my phone in my hand, and it's like later on that day I was like, why is this 70 of the same status? It's like because it was literally just a repeat post, and it was like the only reason it must have done that is the internet must have gone down or something, and it's just like
I retried it.
Yeah, and because I've fallen asleep with a phone in my hand, it's like and I've just had to put on the post button. It took me longer to delete them, but it must have done to actually post them.
So what was the crack with your 40th then? What did you do? I know that did you book somewhere up?
I just had a little like gathering in Leeds. I didn't actually, because everyone was saying, "Oh, are you gonna have an event or something?" Like, no, it's just like, if I'm gonna have a 40th, it's just gonna be a private party.
Don't mean to start anything controversial or anything like this on the podcast, but I seen a comment someone put online, and it was "or Dave's event's dead," and I was like,
"Oh, Mr. Scruton."
I don't know.
Yeah, Joel Scruton.
I seen the comment and I was like, he's not running an event, it's a birthday. I was just like, oh, whatever. But
yeah, Joel Scruton, the less said about him, the better.
Okay,
but I think a few people have had dealings with him over the last few months, shall we say.
Oh, okay.
It's just somebody who's started like crap from 3 years ago again because he needs to be relevant.
Okay, I see what you mean. It just when I put this in the comment, I thought, because when you sent an invite out on the Facebook page, I was just like, oh, right, well, this is like obviously just a gathering of mates. Yeah. It's not exactly, you weren't running a club night or anything like that.
No, it's like, yeah, I had it at a decent place in Leeds, but it was like 6 or 12 in the evening. It was meant to be just like a gathering for me and my mates.
I think I seen a video. I think did Amber play?
Yeah, Amber played for me. Joel on what was meant to play, but he had a few like personal problems on the day, so he didn't come. But we did send him a birthday present in the post, which was quite nice. And also I had James Valentine playing, and Dave G, who's the DJ from Biowie, he's playing at Unity this year with us.
Yeah.
But he's been playing out with quite a fair bit recently. He's actually at that Meltdown event today.
Right. Well, I seen, now we're on the subject, I seen that a couple of people commented on the last one that we did that we didn't talk about Unity. So we can get into that. So did you go, was it the first time you went last year?
The first time I went was 2020, but I was meant to go in 2019. And I was actually booked to play because basically Ryan and Natalie Walker were having like Juicy there as a brand and they asked me to play for them.
Yeah.
Right, but I just couldn't go because I didn't have enough money at the time because at the time I was literally just living off DJing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, all the money I had when I was living off DJ was literally, it paid my bills and got me through the week and that was it. But
Life of the DJ, the glitz.
Sorry, it wasn't 2020 when I first met. It was 2021 because then they still did it in 2020 when COVID happened.
It was it was much smaller.
Yeah, it was much smaller one. It's like when I saw the videos of it, it's like I thought I could have gone this year because that was the point when Cheeky was earning enough for me to get by with everything else. Right, so it was like I just thought, you know what? When next year, I don't care. I don't care what it takes. I'm going next year. Right, so I booked to go on for the holiday in 2021, but then a lot of the DJs couldn't go. And because I keep all my USBs on my house keys, it's like I had my tunes with me. So when Billy Bunter, who runs it, was like asking people like Ryan and Natalie, like, do you know anybody who can play this sort of music? He just sent them straight to me. I ended up playing like 7 sets there in a week. And David did actually say, well, I said, you've come and made the most of his holiday. So it's like when I booked again to go for holiday next year, they sent me my deposit back. I already know you're playing. Yeah. So
that's good.
This is like the second year in a row when I've been officially booked.
So what do you reckon of them? I think they're really good holidays. Like I went to 2018, the Unity.
Did you?
Yeah, and it was really it's very relaxed, isn't it? It's not like a mad holiday.
It's how our clubbing holiday should be because it's like you go for like 7 days, right? But you can pick and choose what you do.
Yeah.
And it's like you can go and have a full on like 7-day bender if you want.
Yeah.
Right, but you don't have to. You don't feel any pressure to do that like you do at other sort of clubbing holidays where it's like you've got all your mates with you like egging you on and things. Right, so it's like you can pick and choose what you do because we've got every genre of music that you could want at those sort of events. It's like we do like 80s night and things like that.
80s night was the best night I went there.
The 80s night is
so fucking good.
Because it's like, they still have like proper DJs like Rob Tissera and Mark Ecstasy playing that sort of music. And it's really interesting because you get to hear them play stuff you're never going to get to hear at most of the events you go to.
Right. One of the memories that stick out in my mind of the 2018 one is Mark Ecstasy did a spin back and you don't see that in clubs anymore, do you really? Spin back and then played it on the drop again and everyone went mental for this like proper like nice 80s
Was he
electro.
doing his
shit.
like drum and bass sets and stuff like that?
No, this was at the 80s night. This one. I think.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
He did some drum and bass bits. The jungle nights were really, really good.
Yeah,
surprisingly.
I actually found that because I've always liked the sort of like 90s jungle stuff.
Yeah.
I've always been really into that. But it's like I've never been into like going clubbing to it.
Yeah.
And when I went that time in 2021, I got right into it again. I can't dance to it for shit.
Yeah.
And it's like if the people did like point out, I said, you've got no rhythm at all to this sort of stuff. I just said, I don't care all of it. It's like, and I got bang into it again. It's like I ended up going to my dad's house because he's got like all my crates of CDs and stuff. And I used to buy loads like Urban Takeover like tracks and stuff like that back then. Right, so it's like I ended up going to my dad's house when I got home, like ripping all my CDs.
Class.
Right, because some of the tracks, it's like I can't find them anywhere anymore.
I went there. The year I went, I think it was still sort of in its infancy. Like there was no bounce or anything like that. There wasn't any hard house either. It was
first year they did it, I think, was 2017.
Right.
It's like I think 2019 was the biggest one up until that point, and then obviously it quietened down again because of COVID. Right, but there's loads of people going again this year. That's good. So it's going to be a busy one, I think.
Well, when I went, honestly, there was like they had the happy hardcore nights. They were phenomenal. They had the jungle. They had 80s house night. Yeah, and it was so good.
You literally get everything there. That's what I like about it, because it's like it's all the sort of music that I like in one place for a full week.
Did you go to the venue where you get on the bus and you go to? It's like
the
middle of nowhere.
one up in the mountains.
Yeah, that was really good.
We went there. I think the first year we went there because obviously 2020 there were still a lot of restrictions over in Greece. It's like when they sort of started easing off over in the UK, it's like they were still quite strict everywhere else. It's like in a lot of the bars and things like that, if the police drove around, you literally had to cut the music off and go sit down and pretend you weren't dancing. Right, so it's like we'd just get somebody like blowing a whistle and we'd just go music off and go hide in a corner. So it's like because people kind of get in the routine that it was like playing musical chairs sometimes. Right, but did a couple of nights up at that restaurant in the mountains, and those were really good.
I enjoyed them. Yeah. When me and my missus went, I must have been, I think I was about 21, 22 at the time.
All right.
And we were the youngest there by
quite a lot.
I'd say about 20 years. The youngest, but other than us, was about 40 that we come across anyways.
Yeah, I bet a few like jungle heads would have been quite young as well. But even, I've always said as well, it's like when you go to events like that where it's the old crowd, but they're still into like going clubbing and things like that. Have you noticed how much younger they look than people over the same age?
Yeah, they're still getting into the
It's like you don't actually feel it's like young as what you are around those sort of people, because it's actually they still come across as younger than what they are.
Yep.
Not in an immature way. It's just like they look younger because
they're active and honestly, I was going to the hardcore nights. Hardcore's obviously the fort on the floor type stuff, and every drop that was coming in, they were like a 20-year-old would be.
Yeah.
Like the dance. I know with jungle it's a bit more sway sort of dancing, I should say.
Yeah.
But like, I remember when Scott Brown was on and he was playing Scott Brown sort of mid 2000s sort of the euphoric stuff.
Yeah.
And he was dropping them tunes, and obviously they're quite energetic. And as I said, there's 50-plus-year-olds, and they're all absolutely going for it. And I'm like, yes, I enjoyed it so much being the youngest as well, because I don't know, I just felt
I love going to like a lot of these events like that, because you might be the youngest person there, but nobody makes you feel like that. It's like if you kind of hyper aware of how old you are at an event like that, or as like Reju, for example, that's a really good one. It's like that's a you problem. If it's like you kind of I feel like the youngest person in it. It's like but they're not looking at you like going, you're the youngest person in it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, like, I felt really welcomed. It was like I say, when I said it, I was in his infancy. I was getting at the point of a lot of people. It was like a family type thing where it's like you come and get in, like join in.
It's really got that sort of vibe to it because it's like the first year I went, it's like the only people I knew who were really going were Ryan, Natalie, a handful of other people, but most of the people there I didn't know. And when I was there, it was like I was just getting on with everybody, and so you didn't feel like people go, "Who are you?" or anything. Everyone was like really welcoming. And it's like, and people got involved with people that didn't know. It's like I ended up getting right into all the jungle stuff and getting to know those guys. It's like the days when I was covering for other DJ that first time I went. It's like people coming and talking to me like they knew me. So
yeah, that's
so because it's like at the time I kind of felt a bit like when I was playing on the first day I played because they asked me to play at Funky House. I just thought everyone's gonna look at it. Who's this? It's like, but it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah, you mentioned Rejuve there. You are like a diehard follower of it, aren't you?
It is the best event in the country.
Do you think so? I've never been, so
I've said this right pretty much since I started going because I think it's 8 years straight I've been going. It's been going 11 years now, and the first one I went to, it's like I'd heard a lot about it anyway, but. I know when it first started, it was actually quite small. I think they had it at Mint Club in Leeds.
Right.
And then obviously it moved to Beaverworks. And over the years, it's kind of grown bigger and bigger. It's now expanded into 6 rooms of Beaverworks. Right. And just started doing like the odd day party like in the middle of summer. And it's like, again, that's another event that's got everything you want in one building. Yeah. Because we have an Italian room. Which you obviously get a load of people from sort of Burnley and that going. Yeah. And you get people like Keith Capstick and that going down.
The thing is as well, like the Italian room, it's got really good Italian DJs in, like really good. Like as Keith's a good example.
It's like I don't know how much Si who runs it actually knows about all his specific genre music because I know he's mainly like the old school house stuff. Right. Right, but he knows which DJs to get on. I know a lot of that's down to his missus Suzanne because she's into a bit of everything. Yeah. And he's like, it was her who was like pushing him to get me on for years. Because he was telling me for years, I'm going to make sure you get on at some point. And I'm always like, when people come to me like that about events, saying, "Oh, I'm going to book you at some point," I'm just like, well, don't keep telling me that. Just book me.
Right. Hey, I've done the same thing to you. Like, you've been coming up here for a couple of years now. It's just finding the right time. Like for instance, we were talking about it, and you're like, "Oh, I can't got Rejuve that night." Like you remember me saying about it, and I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "I haven't missed one in X amount of years," and I was like, "Oh well, okay."
Yeah. Well, this thing it's like it got to a point where when that would have been like 2 or 3 times. I think the second or the third one I went to. I was meant to be playing at Void at like 7 o'clock in the morning, so I had to leave early. Yeah. And it was like, when I was leaving, I was just like, I can't be arsed doing this. Because, like, I still wanted to do my gig, but I was like, I'd rather be here. And then it was like, I decided that after that, I thought, you know what, if I'm going to Rejuve, then that's it. I'm putting that weekend aside for Rejuve. Except Pia.
Except Pia, because a couple of weeks ago, we'll just be talking about off-pod. A couple of weeks ago, it was Wigan Pia's 31st? 32nd birthday, sorry. Yeah. And they had a Hard House Classics room, didn't they?
It was like back to the 90s, I could recall it, but obviously Whitby was playing, and then they wanted somebody else. I think originally we asked Amber, because I remember speaking to Amber saying that I couldn't go to Rejuve with her, because she was booked for Rejuve. And that was like the first time she was playing, so that was the other reason I really wanted to go, especially with everything that's been going on that you've probably seen online. So I kind of wanted to make sure I was there for her more than anything. But then it just said, "Look, I'm really sorry I've been asked to play at Pia and I can't turn it down." And she was like, "Oh, they asked me," and I told her I couldn't play. So I just thought, I did actually think to myself, I'd probably ask somebody else before, because they asked me quite short notice, really. Yeah. Right, but that night I was just like, oh, God, you're making me choose between a gig I really want to do.
Yeah, 2 amazing gigs.
An amazing gig or an amazing night out. Yeah. And to be fair, I did actually get to Rejuve for the last hour and a half.
Yeah, absolute hero, saved the day as well.
Yeah, James Valentine is a legend, because it's like he was the only other person who could have took me, because all the people who were local to me, who I could have asked and would probably have taken me to Pia, was just like, yeah, we're all at Regis.
Yeah.
So he's like, I was trying. I even said to Ben when he asked me, I said, look, let me find a driver first, and I'll come back to you before the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think who I could ask. I think I asked Rick James as well. It's like he was saying where I got to read you as well. So I was like, okay. And then I just thought, even though James lives in Prescott, like 50 miles away from me,
Yeah.
I just thought, you know what, I'll ask him because at least I know I can get to him, so he's not driving up to come and get me or anything.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, I'll see what I'm doing that day. And then he come back to me. Later, he said, look, you need to take that gig. So just take the gig and we'll sort it out nearer the time.
That's good. That's good.
2 days, he came through for me, and he actually had a really good night there. He was saying, this is like clubbing out used to be, because the peer events they're always brilliant.
Yeah.
They're always sold out. Yeah, obviously it's the bounce crowd, even if you don't like that sort of music anymore, it's like you can still enjoy it. It's like every beach ID event I've been to, it's like they'll play stuff that I really don't like, and I'm just like, but I'm getting into it because everyone else is.
It's infectious, isn't it?
Yeah, because they've got the sort of crowd. It's like, I will always say this, that crowd, the bounce crowd, is like, you won't get a better atmosphere than that to play to. So it's like, when they asked me to play for it, was like, yeah, as much as I really want to go to Rejuve, I need to do this gig, because it was like the first time they'd asked me to play for one of the peer events. Well, and they were asking me to play the sort of stuff that I know I could make work there.
Yeah.
So
it's like, was it last year, the year before? I went to Wonderland.
Wonderland, yeah.
Right, and like, I'll be honest, I wasn't a fan of a lot of the tunes that were being played, but when me and you were standing having a crack, it's quite infectious to get into it, because you just see you're in this barn with X amount of 100 people going mental, and they're all bang up for it. They're all tuned in, and that. So
exactly.
It's like a vibe.
That sort of crowd. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Right, especially when I've got the opportunity to play for. I've played for Beach ID a couple of times at Pier on Beer.
Oh. We'll just have to cut that bit out. No.
Right, where were we?
No, it's all right. But we're talking about peer and that like that. So would you start a bucket list one to tick off? Because
that was probably the best gig I've had since the club's reopened again.
Yeah.
It's like I'd played for him 4 times at Pier on the Pier before now, and it's like, and the time when I played in 2018 when I basically got asked to cover for Whitney because he was gonna have to play earlier so he could go to Frantic. He asked me to cover his set, and I remember I got a phone call off Ben like that week, because obviously they want to make sure the right music's getting played and stuff that. They're quite big on that, and it's like he just saying, you know what sort of stuff we want, don't you? I'm just like, yes, I've been doing this God knows how many years. He's like, he kind of got halfway through the phone and said, I don't know what I'm asking you for this for. And so I just went and played, and I was on after BK, and I think Amber was on after me.
Yeah. And
it's like BK was playing quite a lot of like Tom Berry kind of stuff. He was playing a lot of Joe Longbottom's tracks as well.
Yeah.
And I just went on. The first tune I played was "Till Tears Do Us Part,"
right?
Which the Flash Harry mix. I've never played that tune out for God knows how many years. There's literally no need for a DJ like me to play it anywhere. But I just thought, it's a peer crowd.
Yeah,
it's a peer crowd, and nobody else has played it. Believe it or not. So I was like, yeah, I played that, and within like 2 or 3 tunes, I was like, yeah, I'm all right with this.
What's the best mix?
The best mix is the Flash Harry mix.
Flash Harry mix.
Because the thing is, it's like all the others have copied that track. They've copied that
the style of it,
but to be fair, the point of that track to me, more than anything, is that big breakdown with the drums in it. It's like, that's amazing. And then you got the key change at the end.
Yeah.
Right, that's the point of that tune. So it's like every other mix has tried to copy that and not done, because they've left out the key bits that made that so good in the first place. So it's after that, I would say it's probably the Lox and Lee Green mix, but...
Right, I'm not sure if... I've heard that one. Yeah, did that come out like 2014?
I don't think it ever got officially released. It might have been on that album that they did if they did that whole album, typically with like 40 different mixes on it.
Yeah.
And they sold loads of copies of that as well.
I think they're aware of what they've done.
They were quite aware of what they were doing. Oh, they had like the Ice Cream Man remix and stuff on it as well.
Yeah.
But Loxley Green, when I actually remember, that was when I really got to know Lee Green years ago. And it's like, he actually sent me a copy of it to play out. And it's like, at the time, it's like, that was the best one I'd heard since the Flash Harry one. So it's like, I played that out quite a lot back in like 2006 when I got it. But once it got to like 2008, 2009, it's like, nobody needs to hear this tune again. The only people who could get away with playing that tune were Tiny Boys. Especially at a hard house night, nobody else needs to play that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like there's people who hate that tune who will happily say it's like, when the Tiny Boys play it, I like it.
So for right now, right, for instance, I know it's not off subject because we're obviously talking about like hard house and bounce at the same time. But what are you getting more gigs of at the minute? Like what? Because I always see you float in between hard house and float between the bounce stuff and that as well. But what sort of?
I couldn't really say. I think I'm probably getting booked by more bounce people again.
Yeah.
But it's like I've always like played both things. Like, obviously, I can't play a lot of the harder stuff at a bounce night, but it's like, but I can still play some quite banging stuff.
Yeah.
And that's always been what I set out to do anyway. It's like I want to be able to go play stuff to a crowd that I think they don't like something, because especially with
it's exciting, isn't it?
Especially with the hard house crowd, it's like a lot of them used to really hate bounce. Well, mainly the donk stuff.
Yeah.
Right, but it's like I've had people come up to me at events where they said, when you play that sort of stuff, I really like it because you're not playing all the really silly stuff. You're playing like tunes that are just nice and bouncy.
Yeah.
And it's like, even when I played at Pier on the Pier last year, I think obviously it was meant to be the hard house stage or the hard dance stage, and it's like Pete Daly and Gary Hypnotic were on before me.
Yeah.
And they were playing a lot of old Scouse stuff, and it's like Martinez came to me and said, please play harder music than this. I'm just like, yeah, it's all right, I'll be fine. But it's like, even then I still played a lot of the sort of the bounce mixes of hard house tunes, like Inspiration and things like that. But it's like they're not donk tracks, so it's like you don't actually notice that they're quite bouncy versions.
I think there's a this probably get a lot of hate for people who watch this, but I think there's a little pocket now that's becoming so concentrated in the scene where it's like this donk is becoming, it's like so for instance, if I put a tune out and it hasn't got that like the rubber donk, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not getting the attention from that little concentrated crowd. Do you know where I'm coming from?
I kind of know what you mean. As I said, I don't think that used to be a big problem definitely about 15 years ago. That was why it died, really, I think, at that point, because it was like all the tracks that were getting noticed were just like playing donk tracks. Yeah. But it's like, I think these days, more than anything, it's actually just like who you are as well and how well known you are. Right? So it's like, obviously, I said this before, is that because the bounce is concentrated in the northwest, it's like a lot of those people know each other, so they're the sort of people who are getting attention. But also, I know that people are trying to like make the tunes a bit more TikTok-y, because there's certain stuff that works really well for like getting traction on TikTok, and it's like, which is kind of the whole thing that kills music, really. Yeah, it's like, because even a lot of the trance producers started doing like, I've noticed, like they've all been kicking off a lot of the trance people because they said, oh, is this what it's gonna be now? They're all just making 90s donk remixes. It's like, yeah, but they're literally doing it for TikTok. We're not doing it because they even like that sort of music. We're doing it to get followers. Yeah. And that's all it is. And it's because they've seen like people like Billy Gillies and David Rust and Ben Nicky playing the odd bounce set. But that's because they play to a more club-landed crowd sometimes, especially like, where is it? Billy Gillies is Irish, isn't he? Yeah, so
they're very much. They're like Whitehaven. They're still stuck in 2006. Do you know what I mean?
It's like a big like clublandy scene. It's like, it's kind of like Scotland. It's like it's all the GBX. Yeah, which is basically clubland.
Well, that's what it is. So I've got a lot of family from up in Scotland, and they were saying, "Are you still playing that sound music?" I was like, "Yeah." And then he goes, "I fucking love GBX tunes, me." I was like, what? It's like, GBX tunes, that's what you play, isn't it?
Well, it's like St. Pierre tunes.
Yeah, I know, but like, obviously, but that style of music up there is just known as GBX tunes.
Yeah, but it's like, the daft thing is, as well, it's like, I send, because what I started doing with the Cheeky Tracks Pro list, I started booting a lot of DJs off it, because a lot of the DJs are getting tracks but not really giving me any feedback on them, but then they're playing them out to like 50 people. But then there's all these YouTube channels that are run by kids
Yeah.
who are just putting videos on there and getting like 50,000 plays in 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'd seen them put some of our tracks, and some of them were putting the hard house tracks on like a channel like Scottish Dance Anthems or something like that.
Yeah.
And
I'm on that
I
as
just
well, by
thought-
the way.
And I just thought, you know what? I just thought, you know what? You can have all our tracks if that's what you're going to do. Because that's where
Monetizing them, yeah.
that's where money is. Like, I can honestly say at this point, 70% of the royalties that we get are from YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's like when that's keeping me off the dole, basically, it's now my main job.
Honestly, it's like there's a couple of there's one called Alright. Do you know like
Alright,
yeah, and then there's the Bounce House or something like that. I don't know what it's called. And honestly, it's surprising that these little YouTube channels, I don't know how they're doing it or what they're doing, but like they'll upload a tune and it's your tune.
Yeah.
So I'll get a couple of 100 views in a few hours, right? They're getting like 5,000 views in within a day.
Because the thing with YouTube is, especially if they've been running those channels a while,
Yeah.
right, then, because what we've kind of done with YouTube over the years is rather than actually just like making like the site better in general, we've just added layers and layers of things that suppress your views. And also, it's like at this point now, if you're running a YouTube channel, you need to kind of like go on Fiverr and start paying for people to what's the SEO?
SEO,
You've got to
yeah.
pay search engine optimization. You've got to start paying for stuff like that because you can't work it out for yourself. You need someone who knows what they're doing. And because they do a lot of things on YouTube where it's like, say if you use hashtags, it's like they decide whether you're using the right hashtags, and if they think you're using ones that aren't associated with your video, then they will suppress your video.
Yeah.
Right, but it's like some of these channels I know have been running like a good few years, so they've built up a following from there. It's like the Bound 7 channel.
Yeah.
It's like that had most of its following from before it became a thing again.
Yeah.
Right, so they used the channel and then obviously took advantage of the fact it already had an audience. So a lot of these YouTube channels that have got a big audience have been going a long time, and they started at a time when it was easy to get found on YouTube.
Yeah.
And because they're putting other people's tracks up that are popular, people are searching for them tracks and finding their videos.
Yeah, honestly, it's. I think YouTube itself's got its own community of like creators, and it's all proper cutthroat. Like I've come across it. Like obviously doing this podcast, it does do all right. But I'm getting other podcasters who's nothing to do with the music or like that, like inboxing me saying, "Listen, you push my podcast, and I'll push yours," sort of thing. And it's like, and if you don't, they do become cutthroat. Like I'm getting these people. There's like one from Nashville of all places. He's messaging me saying, "Listen, you've got a UK audience. I've got an American audience. Let's sort of do something together." I'm like, "Yeah. What do you want to do?" And he's like, "Oh no. Well, what we'll do is we'll just sort of push each other's channels." And I'm like, "That's not doing something together." But it's just that's an example of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think with the YouTube thing a lot of the time as well, it's like you just have to get on with doing your own thing these days, because it's like if you're doing something good, people find it.
Yeah.
And obviously that's what happened with your podcast. It's like you've been trying to do something like that's worthwhile for years, and then you've done this, and then all of a sudden it's like it's got quite big quite quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So for what it is, it's got quite popular quite quickly. I've seen people who wouldn't have normally like paid any attention to you before and actually sharing your videos and things like that, going on about how great it is. Right, so it's like you're getting noticed by the right people by doing it. So it's just do your own thing.
It is. It took me a long time to realise it. I don't mind talking about it on camera as well. Like I've tried to do all sorts of stuff. I did start a podcast back in 2015, and it was just an audio only podcast. It did a couple of episodes. It done all right, but it just wasn't the right time, and it wasn't the right. Not the right time.
The thing as well is that you've also done this at the hardest time to do a podcast, because now it's like the market for that sort of thing saturated. It's like, do you remember about sort of 10 years ago when you started getting all these, we get branded like alt-right now and stuff like that, but people like Lauren Southern and Milo going to like feminist protests and like doing like anti-feminist video, waving signs saying there's no such thing as rape culture and stuff like that. It's like loads of people are doing that sort of thing now. It's like, but they're not getting attention because they were the first to do it. They're the ones who got the attention for it. So
Yeah.
now it's like when the people are doing podcasts now, it's really hard for them to get noticed.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And it's like I did actually watch something a while back. It was where we're on about like how many podcasts fail, and they did talk about. I think it was like 98% of podcasts don't reach 20 episodes.
I've seen that.
Was
Yeah,
it Chris
yeah.
Williamson?
It was on something on YouTube. I know that.
Yeah.
But it was like 98% of all podcasts don't get past episode 20 because
Yeah.
they think that it's going to work, and then when they don't get the attention they think that they deserve, they fuck
Yeah.
it off. It's consistency is key as well. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, I struggle to do an episode every week because guests let you down. I always do my part. I always make sure I'm available for a day to record. I always make sure that I've got everything I need to do it. I'll travel as far as I need to do it, but obviously you can't control everything.
Well, this is the thing where when I started doing mine, obviously it's a music one,
Yeah.
right? But it's like when I started doing mine, it was like there were points when I was really struggling to do it,
Yeah.
because obviously you need to make sure it's done at a certain time. Consistency again,
Yeah.
right? But you need to make sure it's done at a certain time, and when you put that sort of pressure on yourself, it's like there's points where you feel like you can't do it,
Yeah.
and then it's like you'll find your feet with it and get it done. But especially the first year I did it, because obviously a lot happened that year. My brother died. There was COVID still going on. But basically, I caught COVID, and then my parents caught it, and both ended up in hospital for weeks.
Oh, fucking
Then
hell.
with loads of other stuff going on. It's like I remember. It's like I think it's like. After like 5 episodes, just turned me moaning quite a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's like I did actually say everyone, because I said I do apologise for being late again. My parents are still in hospital and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people kept following it, and by the time I got to like the end of the year with it, I was actually like, you know what, people are still paying attention to it, and
Yep.
and even now it's like I still like struggle to get episodes done, because a lot of the time it's like you're trying to fill like, obviously I do like 3 hours. Where it's like the music, it's like try to fill 3 hours of music.
By the way, I do watch it. I do.
Yeah.
I do. I am watching every episode. No, you've got a good thing, and you do something like. I think how I've invited you back on, and
Yeah.
this is truthful. What I want to say is I think you've got the same work ethic as me. Like if you enjoy something, I don't know what you're doing like for a day job before, but when you've got something you're interested in, you'll graft at it. Do you know what I mean? Like 3 hours.
I've always
of,
been like that. Yeah.
yeah, 3 hours of a show to put out every month where it's got to be fresh and it doesn't sound repetitive, and to keep people engaged. It's hard work, and I think I respect the fact that you do it, because like you see some people the morning that they don't get a fucking booking, and they put a 1 hour CD out every fucking once a year, and
Yeah.
it's like no wonder.
Yeah, it's like that. That's what I've always kind of found. Like whenever, even in the past when I've had like normal jobs, it's like, believe it or not, I mainly did like customer service jobs, and it's like my last proper job was working for what is basically the bus transport ombudsman, and I was a complaints handler. And it's
I'd
like,
love to get put through
and
it.
you know what? It was. I absolutely loved that job. I was gutted when I got made redundant, because people who said to me, "How can you do a job like that?" It's like it said,
You'd thrive.
people. One thing is, what people don't understand is it also trains you to manage your arguments better with people, because it's like you know when you have arguments with people online, it's like people will literally just get outraged at you using the wrong words,
Yeah.
and things like that, especially now, and it's like. In that sort of job, you get trained to like bring people like back to your
Down,
level of
yeah,
thinking, and it's like, so you kind of got
Psychology,
you
isn't it,
guys
as well?
right. Basically, I found like a really good way to calling people thick in a nice way, because
like
most of the time when you work in that sort of job, like complaints handler or whatever, I used to do household insurance claims before that as well.
Yeah.
For like 5 years, and obviously it's like people ring up and say, "Oh, can I claim this?" It's like, "No, you're not covered." It's like, "Why?" and you had to like think of ways to like explain it to them so they got it,
Yeah.
but also put it to them in like a direct way. It's
Bluntly,
like,
yeah.
I remember one where she phoned me because she wanted to claim for, I think it was the cooker broke down.
Right.
And obviously it's like, so a lot of people have the cookers like built into the kitchen, so it's actually part of your building, right? It's not it's not covered by your contents insurance, basically. And she only had contents insurance. And she was arguing for it, but I just said, look, turn your house upside down. What moves? And then thought about it. And then she was like, all right, I get it now. It's just like, yeah, it said, if it moves, it's contents. If it doesn't move, it's buildings. That's it. I said, think of it that way in future, you won't have this problem again.
That's phenomenal. I like it.
And I actually got because that was like the first couple of years I worked there. I actually won an award at work because my boss sort of like listened into that call. We know when the pick like calls out.
Yeah.
She just happened to find that one, and she said that was perfect. So that is the best way to explain it to him in simplest terms, and no one's ever thought of that before. I won an award for that.
That's absolutely phenomenal behaviour, like class. So, like, we'll sort of get back onto the music and that. I wanted to talk to you about Cheeky Tracks a little bit.
Yeah.
With the label, it's going really well. You've got sort of all covers based at the minute.
Yeah.
You do the bounce to keep the bouncer happy. You do the hard house. You do bits of hard trance and that as well. I've even noticed you do some of the slower like house bits and that as well, like now and again. So, what is it that you're looking for? For like, any producers out there, what is it that you're looking for in a track?
I've always said this. I said I'll sign it if I think it's good.
Yeah,
and it's like, and I like quite a lot of stuff. Right, so it would have to be something really sort of like not how to put it. Like, look at the stuff that's on the label. It's basically like I say it's like dance music. It used to be. It's like it's even when it's not necessarily uplifting or anything, it's still got something there to keep. It's all stuff that's made to like sort of like get you in the mood.
Right.
And it's like, say somebody sends me like a side trance track, I'm not going to sign that, but I can point them in the right direction to somebody who will sign it.
Yeah.
And or if it's something like quite sort of like moody, like that. Depending on what sort of track it is, like some of the hard house stuff really moody, but you can be moody and aggressive without being just like miserable.
Yeah.
It's like I've always said there's a kind of like borderline with a lot of the really hard house stuff where it's like, yeah, it'll be aggressive, but it's also like nice aggressive. It's also like, yeah, come on. Like,
I like it. Yeah.
If it's got that sort of vibe to it, then it's like, then I'll sign it. If it's just something that's just like really sort of like
generic.
Not necessarily generic, but if it's just something like really dark and not really getting that sort of vibe from it, then it's like, then I'll say no. So I couldn't really say what I would go for, but just look at the stuff that's on the label. If you can make something like that, then I'll probably sign it.
So, for instance, what type of stuff are you turning down? I don't know who, but like I just want to know what type of stuff. Like, what's been a case where you've heard a tune, you thought, oh, that's not for us. Like, what's stood?
I do get sent quite a few trance tracks,
right?
And it's like I like trance, but it's like the other thing with trance as well is like you kind of have to like be
just trance, yeah.
Well, no, it's like I think with trance music, it's kind of like boxed in itself a bit. Where it's like if I sign a trance track I like, it probably still won't sell very much.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like that's one of the reasons why I've got all these like YouTube channels on the promo list, because there's a lot of trance YouTube channels that'll put your stuff on the channel if you just send them it. Right, so if it's something that I think could at least get a following from that, then I'll release it.
Yeah.
Right, but it's like I get sent quite a lot of, like, sort of really ketty trance tunes. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah,
the floaty ones. I get sent a lot of those. I'm just like
psychedelic type stuff.
Well, just the floaty ones where it's like people can just like have their hands in the air for 4 minutes and things like that. I'll turn those sort of tracks down. There's a lot of bounce stuff that I turn down, believe it or not. I get
what is that? Is it quality or is it or is it musically or what's the situation?
A lot of the bounce tracks, and I think this is just a problem with the bounce stuff in general at the moment. A lot of the tracks that people are making, they're very this'll do, if you get me. It's like you're not. It's like people have come up with a really good idea, but not really made the most of it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of them tracks where I'm just going, this could be so much better. And even some of the ones that are getting released, I'm just like, yeah, this is really good, but like I think a good example actually, and I'm going to name it, it's like Benjamin, Can You Feel It? Right. I really like what's there, but it's like 4 minutes long. It's like 4 minutes long, and like obviously 30, about 32 bars at each end is the intro and outro, and then you've got like 16 bars of a melbourne drop at either side of it. And the actual tune, which is the best bit, which is really, really good. It's over in
less
like a
than 2
minute.
minutes. Yeah, I was going to say.
It's over in like, it's like, and I was listening to Vicky. This just needs to just expand on that bit. It'll be amazing. It's just like, because what's there is really good, but it's just like, yeah, this is like, if you actually edited it down to in fact, I think he's put a video up on YouTube, which is basically the bones of the tune, and it's like 1 minute 45.
Right.
And it's like don't be making your tunes like the house scene does, please. Don't do that.
So this is actually not a bad fucking thing we can talk about here. It's John G who's on tonight.
Yeah.
I talk to John most days. Obviously, we're writing stuff together at the minute. So and we were talking about like we want to go in a direction where it's not selfish, but we want the tunes to be longer. We want like because we like the melodies, we like bridges in a tune, but at the same time, we don't want to copy and paste breakdowns. Like I think that's dead boring and bland.
Yeah, a lot of people do that, but it's like, to be fair, it's like sometimes that's what a track needs, right? I think what it is people aren't putting any real proper thought into how I want to do a track, especially if we're doing like a remix or a bootleg or something or a cover. Just thinking, I want to do a version of this track, and they're not really thinking it through what they want to do with it.
Yeah,
right. It's like a lot of big bounce tracks that are coming out that's sort of like bootlegs or covers of old tracks. They're literally just updating the track. Sometimes that's all it needs. Other times it's like people are still playing the original, so it's like, what's the point? You need to do something different with it. And that's the main thing I'm finding, like, because there's loads of bounce stuff coming out. And I've seen people saying, oh, the stores haven't got any quality control. Of course they have. Yeah. It's like, Bounce Heaven is every releasing like, 20 tunes a week?
Is it every Monday or something? Or
well, we used to do every Monday, now we do Friday and Monday. It used to be 6 tunes a week.
Yeah.
And obviously we're getting sent loads of stuff. Right, so it's like they're releasing more stuff, but what they're releasing is got to be the best of what they get sent.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like especially when it's people like Ben T. Right, of course we've got quality control over it. Right, but it's like they're still in a position where, because they need to release so many tunes a week, they need to make sure they've got content.
Yeah.
And it's like some of the tunes that released, I'm thinking they probably would have turned down if they weren't getting so much stuff that they're turning down anyway.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's the main thing. There's nobody's putting any proper like critical thought into the tracks, because it's so annoying when you go on the song, you hear something, you just think, yeah, this could be so much better. My
opinion in it is that like, is music just becoming content? Like
that's actually the exact thing I've been thinking of. But a lot of like music is becoming content,
like just consumable, and then but it's consumable as in you've listened to it once. It's like on to the next.
But it's like, and I think, to be fair, I will say it's because I've had this discussion with Ben T before, actually, when he said something like about some of the tracks being sent to, some of the stuff I'm getting sent crap, and I'm just like, and I think a couple of times he said he didn't want to release something on there, but he felt like he had to, and it's like, and I just turned around and said, I'm not surprised nobody want. I think that was the main thing, he was asking about original music and things like that, and I said, it doesn't really help that the people who are getting the big like hits in the charts, like the dance music stuff, it's all covers and bootlegs and remixes itself. Because it's like Shaq moving all around. It's a bloody Kim English bootleg, and it's really simple. It works. It's a great track, but it's just like, a few years ago, I don't think they'd have brought that out.
Yeah,
and it's like people like Jax Jones and that. It's like they started making some really good stuff, and that's how they became as big as what they are. They've now got a huge audience, where it's like anything with streaming, it's like once you've got to a point where you've got a huge audience, that anything you release will be a hit. And then it's like the best thing you released last year was a bloody it was a Tech House remix of S Club 7, Don't Stop Moving. I'm just like, what the hell? It's like you could by the time it took you to do that, you could have spent making something that's actually justifies it doing this well in what it's gonna do. And they're not doing that. So it's like, I'm not surprised, like, everyone else, like, further down the line is just going, well, if they're not doing it, why should we?
Yeah. I think that it's... I know this is like a bad analogy, or maybe not a right analogy, but do you know when the Britpop got big in the like mid to late 90s?
Yeah.
That wouldn't have got big in the climate of like, say, 2018, because it's the right time, right place. In years to come, I think people's going to look back retrospectively on this.
I actually did it was like a student radio show a few days ago where I was just I was phoned in from this radio show to discuss like what I thought like streaming had done to music, and I didn't realise at the time, but we're mainly talking like the context of pop music. And this is something I actually thought about quite a lot, because you look at some of the pop music getting big, and right, have you noticed how all these pop bands that everybody used to call crap in the 90s, like Steps, Aqua, right, Busted, all those sort of bands, which everyone like used to slate for being cheesy pop, are coming back and having like sellout tours, like in this era.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to see Steps a couple of years ago. I'm not.
We talked about this in the last podcast.
Yeah, it's like, but it's like, yeah, that was. It was actually really, really good.
Yeah,
and it's like, and they did really well. And it's like, but they're bringing out albums, and it's like the singles aren't doing very well.
Yeah,
because they're not getting on streets on. What people don't realise is all that music back then, it did well, based on the fact that Radio 1 wouldn't play it. Yeah. Because they thought it was crap.
Yeah.
A lot of the local radio station wouldn't play it because they thought it was crap. But it's like, but the people loved it, so it was selling really well. It was always in the top end of the charts, right? It's like now, because everyone's like listening to Spotify instead of the radio work and things like that, right? The way we consume music, it's like, that's influenced like what gets big. It's like one thing I've always said is like, when everyone goes on about how great Ed Sheeran is, it's like he's really good at writing music that's easy to listen to but extremely forgettable. Yeah. Right. So and I do feel it's very deliberate how he's done it, because
it's very clever. Very simple.
If you think about it, it's like I said, people are listening to like Spotify instead of radio. What's the one thing that you used to notice about like Capital and Galaxies? Like you'd listen to it for 4 hours and you'd hear the same 10 tunes get repeated in different order. And the people used to moan about it all the time. But now you're getting all this music, it's literally just content. And it's really bland and forgettable, but it's not offensive enough for you to turn it off. Yeah. Right, so it's like, I can imagine, like, when you see all these, like, there's certain songs that I've seen that have got to number one where I'm just like, why is that number one? That's so boring. Yeah. And then it's like, I've listened to it and just thought, yeah, it's actually just one of those tracks that you could listen to 40 times in a day and not notice that you'd listen to it 40 times.
I know exactly what you're saying.
It's like, and that was one of the things that I mentioned on this radio show the other day. So that's my main problem with a lot of music. It's like we've lost all the things that made pop music as good as what it was in the 90s. Yeah. So I'm not arsed to say I used to love loads of like the cheesy stuff. Right, and it's like, but it worked, it did what it did, and it did it well. And it's like, and that's why it was popular. Now you're getting all this other, like, music, you don't get anyone doing anything different. You now got loads of collaboration where it's like 4 different artists on the same track that are really popular. Right, so it's basically reaching 4 different audiences and maximising the Spotify plays.
It's smart thing to do.
It's really clever, but at the same time, just like, this is what's killing music. And everyone sings about stuff that's that was one of the things I mentioned. Everybody sings about stuff that's so boring. It's like I just got paid. Big deal. I don't care. What was that driver's license song? I got my driver's license last week. And what? Sing about something more. If you sang about you losing your driver's license, that'd make a better song. Right. So it's like it's so when I hear songs like that, it proper frustrates me, because I'm just like, yeah, find something more interesting about. You don't get controversial music anymore.
Yeah.
The most controversial thing in the last few years was obviously WAP.
Wet ass pussy.
Yeah, but it's like...
But the thing is, you've listened to that 40 times in a day, because if it comes on, he is perfect.
And you know what? I actually love that song. I've said this a few times, but what annoyed me about it was... it's basically the modern version of like My Neck, My Back.
Yeah.
And everybody, but you saw these like opinion pieces in the news about it. People like say this is a feminist anthem. What? But she's singing about the fact she's got a wet fanny. It's like.
By the way, I love Wet Ass Pussy.
I'm not asking. It's an absolute.
Not the song either.
No, I know. I actually love the song. Like the song's great. It's just like it is like proper. It is proper over the top, but it's like that's the point of it. It's basically the new My Neck, My Back. And nobody was like making out that was like a feminist anthem or anything. Just call it what it is. It's a dirty song.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a dirty song that's made to be offensive, and that's it. And there's actually a really good techno remix of it. So, like, I remember me and Amber were like listening to like some Twitch streamer in the background, and we just heard this like really good like hard techno mix. It come on, I'm just like, what's this? We need this. And it's like, and then I've actually found it on Bandcamp, and I sent it to Amber straight. She's been playing out loads.
Well, we'll talk about that as well. Yeah, I seen you did a couple of guesting on the demo drop with Amber D.
Yeah.
So the concept of it is give producers, well, bedroom producers, the opportunity to sort of get the music reviewed by an active DJ. On the scene.
It's basically just Amber really who does it. You send her the tracks, and obviously she's another DJ. It's like that's why me and her get on so. It's because we literally like loads of different music.
Yeah.
And it's like we're all so passionate about new people like coming into the scene and keeping the scene going, because obviously it's like if the producers are around today fuck off, then there's no one to replace them, then that's it, scene dead.
Yeah.
Right. So and what it was an opportunity for them to, Amber's been DJing a long time. I think she's been DJing for like a couple of years longer than me, and I've been doing it 22 years.
Yeah.
And right, so and she's also managed to keep herself relevant even when like she wasn't getting booked and things like that, right? She managed to keep herself relevant. So it's like if you're sending tracks to her, then and she's got good things to say about them, you know that you're on the right track. But it's like she'll just go through like all the little things that you need to do and things, and she'll never play a song that's deliberately. You know, when people send you a track that's just like crap.
Well, there's I've seen a dubstep channel. Not dubstep. Yeah, dubstep. It's like that sort of whatever it is that what all the kids love, and it's two young lads. I think they're about 20-year-old, and it's the same thing as what they do on YouTube though, and then they'll purposely listen to like something that's clearly just somebody starting out, like they don't know anything about,
and they'll lay into it.
Oh fuck, they'll go into it.
Amber will never do that. So, and that's one of the things when I did the show with her, I was around her house one week and she said, "Oh, do you want to do the demo job?" I was like, "Go on then," because I don't actually to be honest, I don't actually watch it all that often, because I certainly don't watch it live, because one of the things that is kind of a good thing about it, but also gets really irritating at times, is you've got a lot of other producers in there, and some of them will literally be someone who does one style of music, and then somebody will come in and play with something that they don't know anything about, like tech house or something like that, and they'll be coming in with their opinions about what they can do to make it better. I'm just like, yeah, but you're missing the point. Is that if you do this sort of genre, so you're telling them to do things that suit your thing rather than that style of music, because every style of music is different for a reason.
Exactly.
Right, so it's like, I used to find sometimes where I would have like good input, I couldn't make myself heard. So I don't really watch it live anymore, but I do watch them all back when she puts them on YouTube. Yeah. And she gets some really good stuff sent to by people who've literally got like 10 followers on SoundCloud.
And you're right in there for the taking.
Well, it's like, no, it's like more than anything, it's like I know there was one guy on who was making some excellent trance tracks, and it's like when I saw him on SoundCloud, he literally had like 5 followers, and he'd been doing this a couple of years. And one thing Amber does as well, she'll always put the SoundCloud. If it's hardly got any followers, she'll like, make sure you go follow him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she'll only ever have stuff that she can actually say something good about on the show. It's like she'll never have something on that's deliberately crapping and lay into it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what puts people off doing it, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, how we doing? Just want to take a second of your time before we start today's episode, and I want to tell you about our Patreon. Patreon is a tool that we use to financially support this podcast. For as little as £3 a month, you can support us and what we do. It pays towards our travel, our editing time, recording equipment, making things better essentially for the podcast. But in return, we give you at least one bonus episode per month. Early access to the public episodes, which you're watching now, so you get these a couple of days early. And also as well, I'll be giving away all my tracks on there. So if you subscribe for £3 a month, you might get £10 worth of tracks. Every track that I produce will be going on the Patreon page. So for as little as £3, you can support the cause. You won't even notice it going out your bank. Sign up now at patreon.com/ It's Time to Refresh. That is patreon.com/ It's Time to Refresh. You know you're a fucking belter. Nice one. Back for part 2 of the podcast. This is the questions section. When we started the podcast today, I forgot to ask you, what did you have for tea last night?
I had a Subway wrap.
Oh, what you feeling?
It was BMT. But I literally, the thing is, I literally eat Subway because it's the food equivalent of what we've just been on about. It's content when you're hungry.
Yeah, I know exactly.
It's like, I don't actually like Subway very much, but it's like I'd rather have that than a Mackey's.
Yeah, I think it's quite pricey now as well, to be honest.
Well, the other thing is I always get it off Uber Eats as well. It's like Uber Eats, I think if they do this thing called Uber One, and I mainly got it because it knocks price off my taxes, so it keeps my tax bill down. But obviously it applies to like your Uber Eats account as well. It's like, and if you spend over 15 quid, you get free delivery and they knock some of the fees off. So it's like, right, what you end up doing is you end up buying 15 quid's worth of food, because if you buy 10 quid's worth of food, you've got to get a charge of £5 in fees. Right, so it's like I'll get like bowl of meatballs,
a little
like,
bowl.
I'll get all the sides, and it's just like I'll eat it and think that was shit. And also the other thing is with Uber Eats, especially like the big ones like Subway, it's like we'll get shit wrong all the time. So it's like, all it is like the mystery off your order. Yeah. Like say if you haven't put olives on it or whatever that you've asked for, it's like you'll just put a complaint in and they'll get your money back. Excellent.
Excellent. Like I do love a Subway, I do, but as I say, it's just it's finding convenience to have it, because it is just it's not a snack, but it's not a main meal, is it? Do you know?
It's just something to eat when you're starving. It's like you really can't be arsed.
But if I did it on Uber Eats, by the way, Uber Eats not around here. It's just
so the thing is, it first came in our area during lockdown.
Yeah,
and it's like that was one of the time when I started putting on weight, because it's like then it's like I was going on Uber Eats all the time, and it's like, and I remember some weeks I'd spend like 100 quid on it. Right, but I'll tell you what my favourite thing is on Uber Eats, Your Burger. Your Burger is scandalously expensive and it's worth every fucking penny.
What do you think of Five Guys?
Five Guys is alright, right, but once you've had a Your Burger, nothing else compares. And it's like, in fact, I posted that I ordered the other day.
I've seen that, yeah.
It was like 40 quid for, it was a Wagyu beef, like half pounder, and I got some of the chicken tenders that they do, and I got some fries and a drink. It was like 40 quid.
Yeah,
it's like, but that if you had a burger from, say you'll have a burger from Mackey's and then you want another one the next day, it's like you've got a burger from Your Burger, you're sorted for a month.
Yeah.
Like it's like the other people who know who can get them, because I don't think there's many of them about. It's like
I've never heard.
The one near us is literally just one of those that got, the sort of like takeaways that don't actually, you can't go in there and order anything, they're just there for Uber Eats.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's our local one, but I know someone who lives near the actual restaurant, and they go in there all the time and said it's stupidly expensive, but it's so nice. It's like, it's the only place you'll ever get a burger that looks like the photo.
I'll have to try that, I've never even
They do a burger that has chocolate on it, and it's beautiful.
Thanks. No.
If you've got Belgium, it's actually genuinely nice. It's like chocolate sauce, but it works. I'll
believe it when I taste it.
It does genuinely work. It's really nice.
I never really had the thing of, chili jam.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned chili jam the other day, and I was just like, oof. So then I went and had it. I said the other day, it was like 6 months ago, and I went and had it, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice. It shouldn't work, but it does." Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's like sushi. It's like before you've had it, it's like you're like.
I was never like, ooh, I was like right into it.
I love it, but it's like it's one of them things that sounds disgusting until you've had it.
Yeah, the one in Manchester's changed its name now. Have you seen
Which one?
The one that I went to. I'm sure you said, "Oh, it's the best place."
Wasabi.
Wasabi. Yeah.
Oh, is it gone?
It's just new owners and they've changed it. It's like I don't know what it's called. I went and got it the other day. Still the same. Still exactly the same.
Yeah, I'd love going to the actual Wasabi chain one in Leeds. That's all right, but this again, like I said, it's one of them things that you think sounds disgusting. Like that Belgian beef burger. If you ever find yourself near a Euro burger, go in there and spend £50.
I'm gonna have to do it now.
Right. But one of the burgers I do is like the burger itself is £30.
Yeah.
And it's like, to be fair, it's like a lot of it's because it's got a 24 carat got edible gold leaf on it. But it's like, I remember I got like a decent amount of money off Label Works once I just said, you know what, I'm treating myself to that.
Ridiculous, isn't it? But I was going to say about Five Guys. Five Guys is overrated, in my opinion. But the milkshakes are severely underrated. Nobody rants and raves about them.
Five Guys is kind of like Reds, I think. Right, no Reds, the barbecue place.
Yeah.
It's like Reds, when it was just like they had the odd one dotted about, it was really nice. I mean, it's like, if we got more of them, it's like the food started going a bit shit. You usually find that those sort of places where it's like there's 5 in the country, once we've got another 15, it's like the food goes downhill. It's like Five Guys, when I first went, there wasn't that many about, and then it was like, now we're everywhere and not as good as
I only had my first Five Guys about 2 years ago.
I think I had mine like 2016, 17.
My best mate's mum loves Five Guys at once. that's how
it actually sounds like the name of a porno, like Five Guy Cream Pie or something.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll start on with the questions. We were just talking in the break and I thought, I said just hold on to your thought because there's some questions here that will definitely get your opinions out there. This is from Cheryl, and it is your style of music getting into the charts? Do you think Miracle and Miss You by Oliver Tree sounds so similar to what you play?
You know, a few people said that about the Oliver Tree track. Somebody said it sounded like Kid Dynamo. Right, I don't think it's necessarily getting back in the chart. I think what's happening is because what kind of happened during lockdown was, because me and BK have had this discussion before, basically a lot of what you're seeing now happening, like, with music getting big, is actually, right, COVID, as I put it, like, COVID didn't kill clubs, but what it did, it killed, like, music snobbery.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, like, the younger DJs who go on Instagram quite a lot and things like that, were posting videos of themselves playing stuff that you wouldn't normally expect to hear them play.
Yeah.
And then it's
because
like,
they haven't been exposed to the snobbery.
Yeah, and also it's like a lot of they were all doing like illegal raves and things like that. Like a lot of the foreign kids were, especially.
Yeah.
Like the ones in sort of like Belgium and places like that.
Yeah.
And when we were doing that, we were just playing tunes that they liked.
Yeah.
And because because it was there.
No one was there sticking the nose up.
Yeah, nobody was there telling them what to play. It's like they weren't being asked to play because we play a certain style or whatever. They were just turning up and having a party.
I bumped into a club owner. I don't mind in fact name dropping. Johnny Donnett, who owns Electric Soup.
Yeah.
In Workington. I bumped into him the other day and I says, it's class what's going on at the minute because this, and we both agreed at the point of it's the result of lockdown where people have been able to just get experimental with like what they like rather than what they're told they're like to like.
Yeah.
So you're hearing all this stuff now and it is the direct result of people just chipping away in lockdown.
And what else I said, I will say this has kind of gone downhill a bit since the clubs reopened. Right, but what you found during lockdown was because the producers were obviously still needed to make sure they put stuff out.
Yeah.
Right, but also it's like because people weren't going out, and right, what happened was people were making music you could sit and listen to at home.
Yeah.
Right,
I wasn't banging club music.
Which was brilliant at the time because it's like you got a lot more not just vocal tracks, but it was like bootlegs or anything. You got people actually coming up with like good ideas for, like, even if it was just a cover version. So we were going and finding something that was a good song that everyone had forgotten about, and we're making the songs, the actual production, more tuneful and more melodic.
Yeah.
And you didn't have, because the one thing that irritated me more than anything, like in the years before COVID happened, for the last few years, was tracks like Fisher losing it.
Yeah.
Where it's literally like, it got big off the back of like a video of it dropping at a festival where it's like you got like 15 seconds of it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, this track's amazing. And it's like, you listen to the full track, it's boring as sin. It's literally that one thing.
Yeah.
But it does, it's interesting.
It's a TikTok tune, isn't it?
And you're still getting people like that, because obviously TikTok more than anything blew up during lockdown. Right, and you're still getting people like doing the TikTok thing, but I think people are getting wise to it, because it's like one of the things what we've said about Bounce is like that bloody tribal church stab. It's like me and Phil were on about it. Phil Gritchley is like going, I'm sick of hearing that in tunes.
Horrible.
And it's like, and the thing is, people have openly said, when I put a status about it, was people openly saying, yeah, but it works on TikTok, and. It's like the one thing is, I think people are picking up on now is that, like, they are aware that people are doing stuff like that just to get big.
Yeah.
And or just even, I think a couple of people even said, yeah, but when you can't think of anything else, it works. It's like, well, go think of something else then. Actually put some time into it and think about something else. But it's like, that's kind of dropped off a bit again now, a lot of the melodic tracks, because people have got into going out again, and binding with some of the Bounce people is the kind of started making stuff that sounds good in a club again and no else.
Yeah.
Right, but I think this sort of music, if people want it to be commercial again or mainstream again, shall we say, we need to actually just like make some more interesting tracks, and then it'll work.
Yeah.
Because that was it. That was when, I don't know if you saw what I posted the other day about what I was saying earlier about a lot of Bounce tracks being this'll do. It's like, that's the main thing, that's because the Bounce scene especially is like, they're the ones who want it to be popular again more than anything, but it's like they're kind of not willing to put that extra bit of work in to get it done, like, because at the end you still got, I think people assume, because like say that Bounce project Hazel Eyes, because he got signed to Sony and he's been asked to do like a few more tracks, I think. It's like, I've seen people they've sent me tracks actually, and I've listened to it. So it sounds a bit like a Bounce project. Yeah, I did it because he got big. And it's like,
There's no art in that.
Yeah, well, what it is, we're just telling you, we did it because I thought it'd make it popular. And it's like, and one guy sent me, it was a really good track in that style, but it was the same time, it's like, he even said, oh, I did it because I thought it might get picked up because it's similar to that Bounce Project tune, but then nobody's took a notice of it. And it's like, I think people aren't realising a lot of these, because there's only been that and Initiate, Just Fine. It said, they just caught on because it was the right tune, the right time. It's like a lightning in a bottle thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, they're working because they've come along at the right time when that sort of thing got traction.
Yeah.
It said, somebody else doing that isn't going to get the same amount of traction. So it's like, that's the thing. People want that music to get popular again. We just need to put some more thought into the tracks and make more, not commercial tracks as such, but stuff that just appeals to a wide audience.
Yeah. This isn't a question that's on here, it's just a question of mine now you've got talking about this. Right, I've been writing music recently, not released yet, but I've been taking into consideration the actual musical aspect of it. Like I've been talking with John about it, saying about we need to put more musical aspects into it. So do you not think in the bounce scene you don't hear, and hopefully this is a little nudge for someone to do it if there's any producers watching, you don't hear key changes, you don't hear any you don't hear anything.
You know what I think that is, actually, because I've actually picked up on this a few tracks I've been sent in the past. It's like, I think people just don't know how to do them.
Right.
Because It's like somebody sent me a bounce mix. It was basically an old like pop song. It's like one that had a key change in it. And when he said it, it's like it was really good. But then what he'd done was it's like he was too scared to try and do something. So he carried the vocal on, but he just had it over a flat bass. And I was just like, yeah, I understand why you've done. I kind of understood why you've done it because I know it's somebody who's not been producing himself for very long. And I just said, look, you still need to do something with that. It's like if you're not gonna do anything with it, take the vocal out completely. Just have. So at the end of the day, you're kind of missing the point if you do that.
Yeah.
And I just think it's that people don't know how to do them because a lot of people, let's face it, who are producing aren't musically trained.
Yeah. Do you not think there should be some people taking the time to learn music aspect of it?
Yeah, and I think if anything, it's like this is when I've been saying in the past when people have been moaning about people getting ghost produced stuff and things or working with engineers.
That's another kind of worms in itself.
It's like that. Well, yeah, it is, but it's like what a lot of these people are missing is the fact that you can be like me, for example. It's like I can play 3 instruments. It's like I can play keyboards. I've been playing it for God knows how many years. I can still play it now. I can play guitar. And let's play piano. Like I can't sit at a computer and like put a track together on a computer because to me that's not musical. It's like I think people are missing the point that
there's a difference between like engineering a track and writing music.
Yeah,
that's what me and John were getting at.
Yeah.
Right. Do you not think that the amount of tunes that I'll say I'm going through, say Beatport or what have you, and this is more so with bounce. Maybe not as much house because house music's more stripped back, but with bounce, people use a chord progression and it's always the same chord progressions. There's nobody doing anything different.
But it's not so much looking right. Yes, the chord progression thing's always been a thing that it's like if you actually look at some like back in the 90s, a lot of the big like trance tracks and big vocal trance tracks, especially, it's like if you actually look at those tracks and then look at the chord progression, a lot of it you can just move it up and down. And it's like you don't actually notice you're listening to the same chord progression.
Yeah, I fully understand that.
Yeah.
But that's because there was new technology, like when Ferry Corsten came along and the super saw sort of sound.
Yeah.
He was using simple chord progressions, but it was a new sound. Yes. When Michael Jackson came along, Michael Jackson's music, it had a lot of simple chord progressions in, but because he was using a drum machine where there was other bands that were using it was different and it stood out.
I think what it is more than anything is people need to start using different sounds because it's like when people, especially in bounce, when people, like for example Lee Pollitt, right? When he's been doing a lot of his bounce slashing stuff, he still does a lot of the Melbourne drop stuff,
right?
Which that needs to die now because it's like everybody's doing it and it's just like, and half the time it doesn't even need to be there. Like a lot of people have been pointing out said a track will sound really good and then that'll come in and you're just like, no, you've ruined it, right? And Lee, when he's done something like a proper like melodic track, like I've signed one that he's produced for somebody else, and it's got like a big technical type riff in it, and that works really well with the other sounds he's got going on. So I'm just like, yeah, that's what we need. We need more stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've actually seen like a few producers like say, oh, well, that stuff doesn't really go down well in a club, and I just said it would. It's just that you're not trying.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's like because I've noticed a couple of producers who were making like really good melodic stuff since the clubs have opened. They're making that generic clubby sound again, and I'm just like, no, like you had the right idea before. You should have just carried that on.
Yeah,
'cause it's not even about the actual. It's got a melody in it that people don't like. It's just like if it's not working, it's usually down to the fact that you're probably remixing a pop tune or something like that.
Yeah. I know exactly where you're coming from, but I like the feedback you gave there because honestly, I feel like sometimes if somebody just, it's like I've been sent music and it's like I listen to it and it's like it's sometimes a little bit predictable and it's like if you just went out and experimented with a couple of different things, like your ears pick up.
Yeah.
Like, do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah. If you look at some of the stuff that I've been signing like from the bounces, especially like to get obviously a lot of people are going and working with people like Kenny, which is fine. I've got no problem with that. It's just that if you're not going in there with good ideas, you're not going to get. It's kind of like if you're going in with nothing, you'll get nothing out of it, and because that's always been how it works with engineers. It's like if you're not going in there with right ideas, it's not their fault the track's crap.
Yeah.
It's like you get people like Catchy, who's doing loads of like good melodic stuff with him, which is what Kenny's best at anyway.
Yeah.
And not only that, he's coming out with, for somebody so, I can't remember exactly how old he is. I think it's like 23, 24.
Right.
For someone that age, he knows a lot about dance music.
Yeah.
He knows a lot of like really sort of obscure like German trance tracks. Like one of the tracks I'm releasing from him in the next couple of months is a cover. I can't remember who did it originally, but it's Tone Twister. And that's like a really dirty, like old, like hard trance track from the 90s that Mark E.G. used to play. But
Yeah, so
like,
probably before he was born then.
yeah, it's all stuff that's like from before he was born. And I signed he did like X-Cabs, Neuro and stuff like that. All tunes that people have completely forgot about.
Yeah.
It's like he's going back and finding some really clever ideas to make like good, like bouncy tracks.
I like that. I respect that. Next question, or you'll love this one. I talked to you about off pod. You were talking about old crisps with Ectic, and it got me feeling nostalgic. So, what's your favourite old movie, and also what is classed as old now? And that's from Ben Richards. Nice one, Ben.
What's my favourite old movie?
So we were talking about the cinemas and stuff like that before that we started recording. I know you're a bit of you appreciate a good movie, and I think you've got a big thing for nostalgia as well. So you're the perfect guest to ask this question.
Oh God! Right. If we're talking like old in my, that's probably going back to like 80s for me.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like films I used to like back then. It's like Breakfast Club and War Games and stuff like. I was watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off the other day. Like it's like I miss films like that because the thing with that is if you actually watch it, there's not really any plot to it.
There isn't.
It's just somebody skiving off school for a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's just it's just a nice, happy, joyful film. It's like there's no real point to it. It's just there to put you in a good mood. It's like because the whole point of it is he's skiving off school for the day. So it's like I'm gonna make because it's that I've skived off like 9 times and I can't like do it. I'm gonna make it count, so I'm gonna go do like all this crazy shit, like going to a posh restaurant and proclaim he's the Sausage King of Chicago and stuff like that.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of them movies in which, for whatever reason, the critics absolutely adored it. Like when it came around, it's like they shouldn't have, but they did.
No, but like there's a reason to like it. That's like I say, it's just a feel good movie.
But do you not think though, if you presented that in a boardroom to Universal or whoever it is, Paramount Pictures, they'd go, "What the fuck?"
These days you've got no chance making something like that.
Yeah.
And this is the daft thing. It's like because I don't know if you've seen a guy called Critical Drinker. On YouTube. On YouTube,
yeah.
Right, he's great, and he gets it. Like why a lot of films are crap now. It's like all the new superhero films. It's just like we're all trying to push a narrative, and it's like, and it's not like we've got to. Because the other thing is, I know with the Oscars, it's like we're only allowed to like qualify for the Oscars if we've got X amount of people of colour in them. If we've got X amount of like LGBT people in them. And the thing is, it's like there's been like people who are making films specifically for that audience.
Yeah.
And it's like I know there was like a rom-com out a few months ago, which was basically like the first like rom-com where it was a fully LGBT cast and all this. It's like it died in its ass. Nobody went to see it. Even the people it was aimed at didn't go see it.
Yeah.
And it lost like it only cost them like 40 million quid to make it. It only made like 9 million.
I've never even heard of it, so that
it's called Bros. But it's like if you watch a trailer for it, it's just like, oh, for God's sake! It's like it's actually the plot isn't really anything interesting. It's just like they've put all this gay stuff in there for the sake of like, look, it's a gay movie. And it's like, but even the gays aren't interested. Mate.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like what was that Disney film that lost a fuck ton of money before Christmas? It's like Strange World.
I know you're on about.
And I've not seen it, but I read the plot summary on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And it's like when you read the plot summary, it's just like you've literally put every sort of like political messaging in it. It's like it's a kid who's like he finds out he's gay. His parents like I think his parents are lesbians.
It's like getting a
He's got
BBC panel
he's got
show sort of
he's
thing.
got a disabled dog on the go of this planet that's suffering from climate change. It's just like, I think I remember seeing one of the YouTube shows where it said, this is like the air fryer of movies, it's doing too much. But it's like, that's the thing, it's like, nobody's making like really sort of like feel good films anymore. The last one that came out that was anything like that was Top Gun Maverick. And look how that was like the biggest film of last year.
I didn't like it.
Didn't you?
No, we sat and watched in a hotel room last week. I can't remember what it were. Oh, we went to. I was in Bordeaux last week with my missus and my little lad, and we got late on, and this movie. She said, movie's starting. I was like, no, this isn't any movie. This is Top Gun. I hadn't seen it yet, and I was quite excited.
Do you know what, Dad? I think more than anything as well with that one is that you kind of had to go see it in cinema as well, because the main thing that made it good was the fact there
What
was
they've done with it, yeah.
There's hardly any CGI in it.
Yeah.
Right, they did it like they made the original one, where a lot of it was literally had to fly planes.
Yeah.
And so when you watch it, it's like, when you go see it in cinema, it makes you realise how much like
effort.
CGI actually. Well, it's actually the CGI that like makes films soulless, because it's like you can see on the faces like in the films, it's like it's pretending to run against a green screen and stuff like that.
Genuinely terrified sort of thing.
Yeah, they just look like blank face, where it's like you watch that at the cinema, it's like you can see people are actually shitting themselves while they're doing all these stunts.
Yeah, there was one scene, and like, I don't know why, we were just sitting in silence. My little lad had fell asleep, and we're just sitting there and we're just watching it. And it's the part where, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but there's a plane crash, and he goes to run to make sure he's okay, and he's standing there, and he like opens his arms for a hug, and then all of a sudden he just fucking decks him when he. Do you know
Yeah.
and I just burst out laughing. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, well, to be fair, I went to see that film 3 times. Like, I do, obviously probably noticed the cinema I usually go to.
It looks quite cozy.
You notice it. It's a proper old-fashioned cinema. It's literally got one screen. It's like you don't have to piss about going in. It's like, you know, where now you've got picky seat and everything.
Yeah.
It's like you just literally walk in, pay your ticket. It's like £5 in. You can go see when we get a decent new film on there. It's like you can go see it for like £5.
Yeah.
It's like they still sell like bags of sweets like these for £1. It's like, I've gone there a few times and spent like less than a tenner. Right. It's like, whereas if I go to like the showcase or whatever, it's easy, like £20 before I've even started.
There's one, our local one. It's right by the club we're going to tonight, and it's called the Gatey, and it's the old cinema house. That's what it is, and they've revamped it, but it's still the old cinema house. It's got the curtains that open at the beginning.
We've got all that, and it'll be this cinema I go to. It's like I love the fact that you go in. It's like you get a coffee and it's like £1, but it's like you literally get a proper cup. It's like, you literally get a proper cup and you just take it back at its end, and they still have a break halfway through the film. Then you come out with ice creams.
That's good. That is very good.
And it's like loads. I know loads of people said, "Oh, I don't like going there because there's a break in the middle." I said, "That's part of the experience." It's like
it's an evening out, isn't it? Because people think to have a night out now, you need to go out and go to a pub and have a drink.
It's really cheap to go to. It's like if they're not trying to be old school, they're just doing the thing they've always done. It's like the guy who wrote the guy who he's the projectionist. Sometimes he has to work on the noise. You can tell he's going deaf, and it's like it's so funny. He's thinking, you've been in God knows how many years. And we also have like an organist on Fridays and Saturdays who play. You know, like when they just have like the music playing in the background when you're waiting for film to start. She just comes out and plays the organ, and then it's like, and during the like, especially I went to see West Side Story, the new one.
Yeah.
There, and it was on that night she was there, and when we had like the 10-minute intermission, it's like she was literally just there playing like America from West Side Story in the organ. I'm like, go on, this is it.
Yes, lass. So we'll say old movies. Say top 5 old movies. And what is an old movie to you?
To me, an old movie to me at this point is like mainly stuff from the 80s, because I find, well, even as a kid, I couldn't really watch a lot of like 60s and 70s films.
I can't either.
Right. It's like, and even if you actually watch some of them from the 80s now, even they're getting hard to watch because there's so the way like effects have improved over the years.
Yeah.
It's good, right? It's like now, it's like, especially when we remaster films in HD as well. It's like if you've seen the old Star Wars, they've got dust all over and stuff. It's like, so I think that was probably my favourite film the oldest favourite film I've got is Star Wars.
Right.
I still love Star Wars.
Yeah. I've still got the original VHS upstairs.
I wish I still had my brother's VHSs.
Right. I've honestly, you watch it back and the C like the not CGI the way the model the Emperor, it's ridiculously bad. Like, but you'd obviously of its time.
But you know what?
You watch it now; it's been remastered. It looks great.
When you watch it remastered, it looks crap. Yeah. Because that was the problem with remastering old films. It's like when we're doing it, the whole point of HD is that you can see everything, right? But they didn't have to take that into consideration in the 70s.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like if you remaster a film from like the main thing I noticed about when I first watched Star Wars in 4K, I was just like, they're all dusty as hell. It's like Darth Vader's covered in dust the whole time. Yeah. And then you watch the new ones and it's like, it looks perfect. It's just like that. They've made the old ones look ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're still good films.
Absolutely fantastic.
Right, so I think other than that, it's probably going to be War Games.
Right.
Right, because that just reminds me of being 4. I've loved that film ever since I was 4 because it's the kid who hacks into.
When I listen, this is quite good. This actually, but when I used to think of old films, I used to think 80s, 90s for me personally, and because I've obviously been with my missus a while and that, she doesn't watch anything pre 2000. Like to her, like the camera quality it's just not worth it. Right, the only film she watched pre 2000 is Titanic because it got remastered and.
Oh, but even the remastered one looks crap.
I thought
I actually went to see the remastered one. It's like because I remember watching it beforehand, thinking this looks really old now. It's like, but it's like, bear in mind it's a guy who made Terminator 2. Yeah. Terminator 2 still looks amazing.
Yeah.
Right. But then that we made 5 years later just looks like it's like the bit where the ship's going, where the stern's going down. It's just like it looks so fake.
Yeah, I know.
It looks so fake because you see, it's obviously just like a computer. You can see everybody like pretending to float about in the water. It's like, oh, go away. And then when I went to watch it remastered, I was like, this is still because I've never liked that film.
Do you not like it now? It drags a bit, but I quite like it.
You know why I don't like it? Because it's literally. Right, bear in mind again, it's a guy who made Terminator 2. It's literally a film that's designed. It's kind of like the music thing that I was on about earlier. It's like it's designed to tug at your heartstrings. Like it's so contrite. It's like I'll never let you go, Jack. It's like everyone starts crying. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first saw it, I was like, I found myself like crying. I thought, why am I crying? I know this is bullshit. That's the thing. It's designed to do that. It's like, yeah, it's a good film in that it does what it sets out to do, but at the same time, I can't stand films like that.
I've seen someone do a gag saying about, Seamus sank at the end, and he goes, "Oh, well, we may as well not watch it now. How do you know what happens? Have you been to say like?"
I did find it funny, but I did find it funny being on a ferry once, and the film that was on at the cinema was Titanic.
Yeah,
and so wow, it was like that's a bit on the nose.
I watched is it the 370 plane, the Malaysian Airlines. I watched that on my way to Hong Kong. So yeah, and I was like, I'm not comfortable about this. It's just ugh. So
I think you're right. I think people would actually be shocked to know what my favourite film is of all time.
Go on then.
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls? It's not a bad show.
Mean Girls is still fucking hilarious. Like, but it's like I know it's like an obviously girly film, but it's like there's so many one-liners in it.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's like I could read that film off by heart. It's like every time I watch it still gets me. It's like I don't know what it is. It's like ever since I've first seen it, it's like this is great. It's like when has Mrs. Norbury ever tried to sell you ecstasy or marijuana? It's like ecstasy tablets or marijuana. And somebody goes, "What are marijuana tablets?" it's just like shit like that.
Yeah, I think mine and yours will be slightly different. So you go now. Top 5 nostalgic movies for you.
Breakfast. Yeah, I would say Breakfast Club.
Yep.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, both good, by the way.
War Games again. What else? Beauty and the Beast, the original Disney one.
Boom! Class.
I can't think, and probably The Lion King. Right,
it's alright.
It's like the best like Disney animated movie is Beauty and the Beast. Like, and he knows it.
So good.
I know, right, and he knows me. Like, there's only one other lad I know who actually agrees with me on that one, and that's Phil Critchley.
It is so good. The original soundtrack's miles better than this new one as well.
Oh right, I really liked the new one, but right, what annoyed me was it's like, why was Ewan McGregor fucking Lumiere? He can't sing either.
Yeah.
It's like Emma Watson can't sing either, right? Because I don't think people realise how much auto-tune we had to put on her.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you can hear it when you listen to it.
She wasn't one of them kids who did she didn't do plays and theatre though, did she? She was
literally famous from Harry Potter.
From Harry Potter,
To be
yeah.
fair, it's like she was good. She was good in that film, but she just can't sing.
Yeah.
And it's like that was the main issue with that one. It's like it was because it was also so close. It was stuck so closely to the original and also the musical that when something was wrong, you really noticed it. And it's like it's really good. But the Be Our Guest thing, it's like with Ewan McGregor, I had to literally fast forward it when I first watched it. I was like, I'm not dealing with that. and also it's like the Lion King remake. Oh my god, what a boring film!
I didn't like it.
They actually made one of my favourite Disney films one of the most boring things ever.
I watched that in Leeds, and it was quite a good cinema. It was right in Leeds city centre. I can't remember. I don't know why I ended up going, but I went and I thought the cinema was amazing, but the actual film was bollocks.
Oh, it's so boring. It's like because of the other thing, it's actually really pointless because it's like we tried. We know for a fact it's obviously not live action. It's just new animation.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, but we obviously tried to make it like hyper realistic. And what they forgot was that animals don't have expressions. Right, so literally all the characters, right, it's big stuff's happening to me. It's just like, you all look bored. The only good bit in it was the Lion Sleeps Tonight bit. Because they obviously made that longer than it was in the original film. So I was like, yes, this is ace. Now it's really boring again.
Mark, right, top 5 for me. My favourite movie of all time. Oh no, it's not my. So older films, I would go. I like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. I think that for me is. It might not seem old to you, but I think it came out. I was only a couple of years old.
It was like 1997.
97, yeah. I think they made it 97, released 98. For me, I like Double Impact. Do you know Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Yeah,
That is such a fucking good movie.
got I've only sent like a handful of people into, but basically because I've got an app on Roku where you can just watch films on Dropbox.
Yeah.
It's like I've got a full folder on my Dropbox which is just full of old films like that, and that's one of them in there.
Class film. I love it. I really do.
Jean-Claude Van Damme films were ace back in the day.
Yeah, that was the best one out of them, I thought, as well. Let me see. I loved Back to the Future. It got a bit weird, but I did like the premise of it.
I like, but I've always liked Back to the Future, right?
Yeah.
But the guy who made that has actually made some amazing films in general that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah. And obviously Star Wars is a massive one for me as well. I say I didn't like movies from the 60s, but I'm a massive fan. It's a bit long, but it's good. I like The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Clint Eastwood.
Oh, my mum loves Clint Eastwood. I can't watch Clint Eastwood film, but that's because my mum was obsessed with him.
It's really, the plot is so good for its time. I really do appreciate that.
Whenever old like Clint Eastwood films are on the telly, my mum will sit and watch them, even though she's seen them all about 200 times. Oh, what I should have mentioned, Grease.
Oh, banging!
Grease is amazing.
Yeah, Grease is such a good film.
You know, the thing with Grease as well, that would literally never get made now.
No.
Because if you actually, it's like, in fact, I think people have tried to like cancel Grease in the last couple of years. Because saying, yeah, it's just about this lad who's like trying to bang his bird, and it's like shit, and then, but in what she does is like because she's like so boring. What does she do? She starts dressing like a tart and smoking and stuff like that, and then it's like. But also, it's just come on. It was like it was 70s.
It's of its time, and it was great.
And also, it's like you can't take it seriously because they're meant to be at school, but all the actors are over 30.
John Travolta as well. Speaking about him, Pulp Fiction. Oh, such a good film.
Yeah, I like Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs also good. Pulp Fiction for me.
I first saw Reservoir Dogs when I was like 10, and it was still illegal to get it on video in the UK. And it's like, Mum was saying like it's really violent. I'm just like, no, it's not.
Reservoir Dogs is good though. I never understood the hype. I like I said, like The Godfather and stuff. Like I never really understood the hype about that. That was a bit like. I think a lot of the Ponzi reviewers were like, "This is amazing," and I was just like, "Oh, is it?" Like I never really got the.
It's based. Well, it was basically like the sort of like predecessors things like Scarface and that. Where it's
Scarface
like,
was better.
Yeah, Scarface is something like us is a better film, but it's like I can imagine like The Godfather. Like if you were old enough to see it back then.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
of
different.
course. Carlito's Way. That's another good shout as well. That the Al Pacino movie was great. There was a film that, Joe, when you talk about films when you grew up that you watch, one film that takes me back to being sort of 5 years old is my dad showed me it when I was younger, and it was The Scent of a Woman. Do you know Al Pacino movie?
Yeah.
And he puts the gun together real fast, and he impresses the woman like, "Oh, that's that perfume," and she's like, "How do you know?" And he's like, he's got like that touch with women, hasn't he? It's a fantastic movie. Little known fact about me, we're talking about, this won't seem like an old movie to you, but to me it's an old movie. Matilda, the original Matilda, right?
You know, I watched that the other day.
I know all the words to that from the beginning till the end.
Right,
I've watched that many
you
times.
know, Sweet, it's like I remember like seeing that originally. It's like, and to be honest, it's like I've not seen the new one, the musical one, but it's like mainly because I saw who was in it. I just thought, no, this isn't the original story. It's like, to be fair, the original film they did of it was probably one of the closest done to his books. Because like, that was one thing I did. Like when there was all that stuff in the news about like they were changing all these books.
Yeah.
It's like I was a massive Roald Dahl fan when I was a kid, because it's like all his books is like they're really dark.
Yeah,
it's like
when you actually, dark tone to them.
When you actually think about it, Matilda is a story about a kid being abused.
Yeah,
it's and a kid being abused by like fucking criminal parents who didn't want to take any notice of it. The one thing they did change in film that I didn't like it, they sort of made the ending a bit nicer. Where mum goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I never understood you." It's like the parents just fucked off in the original book.
Yeah.
Like,
I love Matilda.
But it's like I did make a point of like as soon as I saw that, because it's like then you started seeing like all the, I think Amazon sold out of all the the most recent runs of his books, because that was going to be the last ones before they changed it.
Yeah.
Before they changed their mind again.
I was brought up on them books.
And it's like I was. It's like, so what I did was I went and bought a lot of the original ones that I had, and I managed to get a lot of them for like £2 each on eBay. When it's like some people would put the price like £98 and stuff, but you can still get them from like Oxfam on eBay for like £2. Right, so I did end up buying a lot of them again.
What's your favourite book then? Just
my favourite
not movie book. Mine is The Twits. The Twits.
I would probably say that George's Marvellous Medicine.
Yeah.
Because that's another one about, it's basically about a kid trying to kill his gran. It's like, but it's only when I've got older, I was like, wow, these books are so, it's the sort of thing is like, I think people don't realise about Roald Dahl. He was actually somebody who killed people at war. And he never liked like adults when he was a kid. So it's like, he's basically made books.
Revenging it.
It's basically like he made sort of books that kids who don't like adults want to read.
Yeah,
like that's what I get from his books. Like, but then I think I would say George Marvellous Medicine.
Yeah.
Matilda was definitely one of them. I read that book so many times, because the other thing, I was like the fucking brainy kid in that family, so right, so it's not I could
what
relate.
happened?
This thing is like except I had parents who actually cared and tried to send me to a good school and thing. It's like, right, I was actually the brainy kid in our family, so it's like when I read that book, I could actually relate to it quite a lot, because she's reading all these like really sort of like adult books as a kid. It's like I was doing that when I was like 5. I could read the paper when I was 5.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that I'd say that, and I can't think of any others in particular. I liked all of them.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, that's a bit boring now, because that's probably one of his nicer ones, isn't it?
I'm just gonna put it out there. The fucking
Johnny
Depp one is so shit. That movie that they did.
Oh, the Johnny Depp one. The problem was they tried to make it closer to the book, which they did. But a lot of the problem with the book was a lot of the stuff in it didn't work as a film.
Yeah.
So it's like when they had the Uncle Umpers in the original film. I know that there weren't, the reason why there weren't many Roald Dahl films when he was alive was because he fucking hated Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from Willy Wonka one. And because they changed like certain stuff in it, it's like obviously the Oompa Loompas singing different songs.
Yeah.
And it's like, so when they did the Johnny Depp one, they tried to make it more like the book, and it's just like, yeah, but some of it just didn't work
translate for me. Like, I think Gene Wilder, it's Gene Wilder, isn't it? Who did the original. I think he was so fucking good in the first one. He's like, he's twisted. He's like, it's terrifying as a kid to watch, and I love that.
But it's like, I think the main things, right, that's it, is what Roald Dahl hated it, and he also hated the original Witches one as well.
Yeah.
For the one thing that we did, which they did do wrong, was that they give it a happy ending.
Yeah.
Because the book didn't have an happy ending.
Right, we'll move on now, because there'll be some people who's watched it for music's sake, and we've just went off on a tangent. Sorry. I've loved it, by the way. I've loved it. We
didn't get enough time last time. So.
This is the Flopper Bop section.
Yeah.
So, have you been watching the Flopper Bops?
I haven't watched a couple of the recent ones, because you haven't done this
very long. No, it's only been about 4 weeks now, I think.
Yeah.
So Flopper Bop is, I'm just going to read you 5 tracks. You tell me Flopper Bop, and if you give me an answer in which I think you need questioned on, we'll question you on it. So this is Flopper Bop. You can send some messages on our Instagram page if you've got any ideas you want us to flop or bop with tracks. We've got a whole list of them to get through. I try and cater them to the guest. So I have went down the route of picking some out that I think you'll like. So Flopper Bop with General Bounce.
Yeah.
Here we go. BK Revolution, Flopper Bop.
Ooh. Bop, but not one of his best.
I'm going to say bop. I like that new version he did, the new techno version. It's really good. 4 Strings Take Me Away.
Flop.
I'm going to say the original is a flop as well. I agree with you.
Right, you know something? It was the vocal. The vocal sounds like a teabag advert. Right, you know, like those sort of songs, like where it's like what we do with songs now. If it's on a John Lewis Christmas advert, it's a really whiny, boring vocal. Yeah, it's one of them.
I like the remix of it. I've heard so many good remixes of it. I just don't like the original. That's my thing. Scooter, the Logical song. Bop, yes, yes, Dave.
Right,
I knew you'd like that.
Right, Scooter. Right, I was banging into them when I was like 12, and I remember buying their album on a school trip to France. And we go, "Ooh, the fuck a Scooter!" Then, like 6 years later, and people don't realise this Scooter. Right, this is the only country where they haven't sold more records than Madonna.
Scooter are fantastic, by the way.
I so wanted to go see them live, one of their own concerts for years, because if you see the video of them live in Hamburg, there's like 20,000 people there.
Class. Just class. Like, they are genuine, like, some of the musicians, when they play some of them riffs and that on the keyboard, it's very satisfying to watch.
And it's like, one of the things that used to bug me is, like, because you could tell when people don't really know a lot, because they used to go, but they're ripping off this riff from a certain track, and yeah, they are, but they're not doing it to rip it off, I think, because they're like, no, it's going to be popular. They're doing it, they're doing things that they love.
Yeah, you can tell as well.
They're doing it out of a love for the original song. So it's like, because that's when I go, well, it's not ripping him off, it's a homage.
Yeah.
It's a tribute.
Another thing as well, the Scooter went a bit funny a few years ago, where they started doing Melbourne stuff, and it was really shit, in my opinion.
They did, yeah, I remember they did 4 o'clock in the morning. That was one of the first ones I heard when we were doing that sort of like electro house sound for a while. And it's like, and I heard it, it's just like, wow, this is so not you, because it was.
You could tell that they weren't that into it either.
It was because with the actual like style that they did, it was a very generic sort of electro sound. And also when they did that 4 o'clock in the morning, they got a vocalist who sounded like Adele, and it's just like, no. Literally, if it's just like you've just gone for whatever's popular, thought, Adele's popular, we'll get someone singing like her.
Go on then. So, what's your favourite Scooter song? Before we move on?
Oh God, there's loads. I would probably say. Move Your Ass or Crank It Up.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, yeah. My favourites are... I've got a really nostalgic thing to Weekend, because I just remember it as a kid, and fantastic tune. Posse, I like...
Oh, that's probably my favourite of theirs, the TB mix.
And let me see, they've done so much. That I was a massive fan of. They did Rebel Yell, a cover of Rebel Yell. And you know something?
I liked that.
I thought it was really good. Like
It worked. It worked. It actually worked really well. It's
Yeah.
like that. Cause that was the point when we started getting a. Because obviously we're huge in Germany. It's like, but like that sort of style didn't really translate well to. So it's like around 1997. I remember we started doing more like rocky stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was buying their stuff for God knows how many years before we actually got big in the UK.
Fantastic.
And it's like we did a couple of sort of like really sort of like Fire and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I went to Germany and I bought one of their album. I can't remember which album was it at the time. It was the one after Wicked, one that had How Much Is a Fish on it.
I can't remember.
Yeah, that was the first track I heard from them. That there was How Much Is a Fish, and then Call Me Manana. And it's like I remember buying that album and thought this is like kind of like the right level of commercial for them to be.
Yeah. Next one, Darren Starr's Quiver.
Flop.
Flop?
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought you'd been in that, to be fair.
It's right. I get why it's popular, but it just did nothing for me.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a banger.
It was
But
one of
I
the-
genuinely thought you'd like that as
You
well.
know, it was one of the, right. There's some tracks which, to me, the worst kind of tracks are ones that I haven't got any opinion on because I haven't got any opinion on them. It's like they're not even good. They're not even
Not good enough to have an opinion.
No, well, actually, it's not right because I've had this discussion with Technical before. Actually, it said right when some people love a track and others hate it, you know you've made a good tune because it's getting a reaction no matter what.
Yeah.
If you just make it so it's like everyone's just like, oh, then it's not doing anything for them. Then you're not getting any reaction from them, and that's the worst thing you can get.
Yeah.
It's not that like.
If people are talking about it, it's promotion, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, it's like I'm kind of like this with people as well. It's like I've always said, if somebody doesn't like me, it's like I'll make them hate me. If you're not gonna like me, I'll go out my way to make you hate me because then it's like I know I'm still getting under your skin. And usually I found out with like when I've done that with people, it's like I've actually ended up being really good friends with them. Right, but it's like I've always said that. I said it's the same with music. If I don't even hate it, then it's just bland and crap.
Yeah, I understand that. And the last one for today, I really hope we get the right answer for this. Bewitched C'est La Vie.
You know what? I'm gonna say flop because I understand why it was popular at the time. It's like to me, it's probably the most irritating song we've done.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
It's fantastic.
it's the most, right, but it was going out of its way to be irritating. That's the thing. It's like I can't knock it that, but it's like right, but like the best Bewitched song is "Blame It on the Weatherman,"
Right.
and the Chicane remix of it.
I've heard the Chicane remix.
Right, because I don't think people realise this was the point when obviously like you had like really credible artists like getting paid a lot to remix crap song. The Chicane remix of "Blame It on the Weatherman" is amazing, and I used to play it out. And it's like there was also a Tomsky remix, which is basically just like the same guy. A Tomsky remix of "I Shall Be There." It's a lovely bit of trance music, and because we've got the Irish voice as well, it's like it suits trance music so well. It's like those two tracks are my favourite Bewitched tracks, and I will happily play those two out in the club.
Yep, excellent, mate. So there isn't many I disagree with, other than Bewitched, of course. But Bewitched is an absolute bop, just so you know.
I think it was just because it got on my nerves. It's like,
It gets on my nerves.
But also, it brings back memories when I was like 16 and I first went. Remember when we talked about Battle of Frontier last time?
Yeah.
Right, that was one of the songs that I played on my 16th birthday. It was like, oh, for God's sake! And then like when I went back that 10 years later, they were still playing that fucking song. And it's just like, come on. It's like, they had that whole selection of tracks which were just played to death every single time you went. And it's like, come on. It's like, obviously you play these become the annoying party tracks. You can find more annoying party tracks than this. The only one they ever added to that list of annoying party tracks was Journey, Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah, that is an annoying party track. So I'm just going to sort of tie today up, mate. I think you've had an incredible podcast once again. And do you know something? It's better than the last one because
you know something, we still haven't talked about a lot of the stuff I was prepared to talk about as well.
Don't worry.
I know I'm going to be back at some point.
Yeah,
so.
you are. And the Patreons will see that because we'll do a little bit extra in a minute. So if you're not a Patreon, go and sign up because you're about to hear some stuff that Dave wants to talk about. So go and sign up because it's only £3 a month. Guess what? Dave's a Patreon. Why not be like Dave and sign up? Because guess what? There's lots of lovely bonus content that's going to be a bit more raw and uncut, and you will hear stuff on there that you won't be able to hear on normal episodes.
And also the main thing is like you're funding this to happen. So
yeah, this literally.
Be my Patreon, you pay my wages.
Honestly, right? I'm not just saying this. I'll tell you off the podcast. I've put so much money into this, and I haven't made a tenth of it back yet. Yeah. Just because I do it because I love it, and the fact is we've got starting to build like a nice little Patreon thing, and it pays towards fuel, pays towards like editing time and production costs, and like if you look at now, the production's gone up since you were last on. Yeah, like
the production's gone well up.
Yeah,
it's like and that one thing I will say about it is like, because obviously I watched the podcast as it's like grown, and it's like you can see how much things have changed like in a short space of time. Bear in mind you're doing this every week, and you probably haven't really, because one thing I always been wondering is like, how are you finding the time to do this? Because it's like I don't even have the time to do this, and my job is basically cheeky track and DJing.
I still manage to do 50 hours a week at work as well. So
that's what I mean. It's like I know that you obviously have a full time. I don't know how you manage this.
Honestly, I'm so passionate about this, and it's so good when you get these people who are. It's not even to do with the money. I think the people who are interacting with you saying, "I think you were wrong saying this," or "I agree with you saying this." When you're coming in messaging me, a lot of people don't like to give, and we'll get onto this. A lot of people don't like to give public praise because they feel like because you're not the cool person. I know I'm not the fucking coolest person in the world.
I don't think it's anything to do with it. I think a lot of the time it's actually just because you always get those, especially when it's something like this and it's growing. Yeah. You always get those people, it's growing or something like that. It's like you get that in music and everything. It's like people start giving you public praise and people just like, they'll put a comment like, "Oh, climb out."
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's the sort of thing that puts people off like doing it.
Yeah, exactly. But as I say, I'm not looking for this to be like a money orientated thing. I'll still do it regardless if we get Patreons or not. But what I'm saying is I want to be able to give the people who do pay towards it reason to do it, give them bonus content, give them something extra as a thank you. Do you know what I mean? And to those who are signed up, that they are such diehard followers. Like I've produced music and I've been a DJ for 10 plus years, and I've never had as much appreciation as I have doing this.
I think this is what you're good at more than anything else.
That's the most backhanded compliment ever.
I mean that's very possible. It's like because everybody's best at something. It's like it turns out that I'm actually really good at running a label somehow. So it's and I think the other thing is because you're doing something that you're just doing it the way you want to do it. It's like that's all I ever did with like cheeky tracks, and it's ended up being my job. And it's like, and when I've spoke to other DJs, like, what do you actually do for a living? It's like, oh, I live for cheeky tracks. I was just like, what? It's like even people who work for Tiny and stuff like that saying, how are you managing to live off it? It's like, well, just about, but. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not looking to live off this either. What my goal is. It's just I want to give the best possible product to the people who are watching, and I must say that the one thing that I've found that it's got a bit of soul about this podcast, because I'm not trying to be like anyone else with my music. I hand on heart will tell you that I do copy. Things I like. I take inspiration from here, as everyone else does. Yeah. But this, I'm not copying off what anyone's doing. I'm winging this all the way. And do you know something? I've got maximum comfort out of it as well. It's like, for me, I'm not putting myself up against somebody and saying this should be like this. Because I know I'm not Joe Rogan. I know I'm not nowhere near like that. But I'm just doing it my way.
I think that's why you do well with it, because it's like people are getting to see the real you, and it's like that's kind of the thing now, isn't it? It's like it's why you get like DJs and producers basically being content creators and doing silly videos and things.
Yeah.
But it's like you can see the difference between somebody who's doing it just to create content and somebody who's actually, and say like Lewis Capaldi.
Yeah.
Lewis Capaldi's like, he's popular because he's actually just like that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Absolute legend of a guy. He's a bucket lister on the podcast. That's what I'm basically getting at. Like, I've found something. Like, we've talked about this off the podcast. I've threw a lot of shit at the wall, and some of it sticks, some of it doesn't.
Yeah.
But me doing this, I actually feel like it was something I was meant to do. Do you know what I mean? That sounds really horribly philosophical. But
I think it is, because, like I say, it's like it's grown really quickly and you're getting attention from people who wouldn't have normally given you any before. So.
Yeah. I can see what you mean. But as I say, I will continue doing this until the point where I'm like, I can't be asked doing that anymore. But I don't think it's coming anytime soon, because I enjoy the art of conversation, and a lot of people are listening to this and like coming up to you in a club and going, Brad, you shit yourself at this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? How? And then I seen it on the podcast, and it's like, oh, right,
you do talk about shitting yourself a lot.
I know, but it's one of them things where it's like, it's people mention it. It's the first thing they say to me about the podcast, and it's like,
I don't want to be. Said to me today before we even started the podcast.
We're not having a good day. But that's the thing. It's like it's one of them things where it's like people get to know you on a personal level. And I said off podcast to Dave as well. My social media game's awful, like really, really bad. I come across as such a 2-dimensional person when I'm trying to promote my tracks, where it's like, go buy my track, blah 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 blah. I don't know how to do social media, but if I can sit here and talk to you. And my personality, whether you like it or not, is another question. But you will get my personality.
It's that whole thing as well, especially with social media now. It's like you people feel like they can't be themselves, so it's like I just don't care. Me, it's like I'm just a gob on legs, and it's like that. And
when you're not banned.
I haven't been banned since July last year. I'm doing quite well so far, but it's like I think what it is like with social media. It's like you kind of have to watch yourself swearing and stuff like that now, because you even get banned just for saying the C word.
Yeah,
and it's like and it's like who was it who got banned for something the other day? So I'm sure somebody got. Oh, that was it. I saw somebody getting. She did a video on YouTube about basically like going on about. It was something she was trying to expose, like a child predator.
Yeah.
And then she got her account banned completely on YouTube because it said she was promoting the sexualization of children.
Oh,
it's just like,
it's
no,
such
but
an
she wasn't.
opposite.
She wasn't.
Yeah.
She was exposing a predator, but you're basically like shooting the messenger.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the thing, is like all this shit like puts people off doing it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
so where can people find you, Dave?
You can find me on Facebook at DJ General Bounce.
Yeah.
Official. That's my DJ page, and I'm on Instagram. I've started a TikTok. Well, I've had my TikTok a while, but I'm actually making use of it now.
Yeah.
And you can find me on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And on the Cheeky Tracks YouTube channel.
And so the Cheeky Tracks have got the all the playlists on Spotify. You've got the YouTube channel and the SoundCloud page as well.
Yeah.
So go and check them out. There's some really good music and some talented people on there. And yeah, sign up to the podcast. It's £3 a month. Let's do this. Thanks for coming on, Dave.
No worries. See you soon.
Share with your mates. See you later.